Hello, I'm Robert, and welcome to the Tasco Center for Teen Technology. We have a 5-part series for you today, which is all about how to shoot better photography using your cell phone. I want to stress that this is not just for teenagers. This can be for some younger children as well as young adults and adults alike, as long as you have one of these, which I'm pretty sure everybody today has. These 5 episodes are not stepping stone lessons. So you could watch all 5 or the ones that just interest you in any order you would like. The first 3 episodes are on composition techniques. We often like to call it how to shoot photographs, not snapshots. We're going to do one episode on how to edit your photos right on your cell phone or your iPad. And it doesn't matter if it's iOS or Android or what type of phone you have. Everything is pretty much consistent today on the editing techniques. And you should be able to apply what we teach you to whatever cell phone or tablet that you use. And then last but not least, we're going to go out and teach you how to shoot amazing photos right in your own backyard. So thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Okay, how to shoot better photography using your cell phone. In this first episode, we're going to address 3 different techniques of composition to help you shoot better photographs and not take snapshots with your cell phone. We're going to look at framing, filling the frame, and something called rule of thirds. And we're going to start off with rule of thirds. And why are we starting off with rule of thirds? Well, if there is just one technique that can improve your photography more dramatically than any other technique, right off the bat, it's rule of thirds. So what exactly are rule of thirds? Well, these are rule of thirds. Basically what we've done is we've separated our photograph into 3 vertical segments and 3 horizontal segments. And instead of putting our subject right into the middle of the photograph, we're going to put our subject on one of the thirds. Now, it's called the rule of thirds. I think it's more of a guideline, not a rule. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be exactly on the line. But if you are setting your subjects off to the right or the left, it will make things more interesting. And we will also help you choose which is the right side to put them on. So the horizontal rule of thirds are very good for when you're shooting landscapes or horizons, where you need to separate the top from the bottom of your photograph and decide which is more important. Okay, the first photograph we're going to here is a lighthouse, and as you can see, the lighthouse is placed on the left vertical third, and the horizon line is placed on the lower horizontal third. So it gives a nice sense of symmetry and a nice, clean, simplistic photo. Of course, sometimes your subject's going to be a person or a pet or an animal. Here, the dog is looking kind of to the left into the picture. We've placed him on the right third, and we've kept the left side of the frame open. If we were to have placed him on the left third, it would almost look like he's looking at something out of the photograph. Kind of gives a sense of uncomfortableness, or raises the question, hey, where exactly is he looking? So that's why we would choose the right or left third. Here's another perfect example of this bald eagle right here. He's on the left third looking to the right, and we've left the open side of the photograph to the right. If we were to move him to the right, it would look like he's looking out of the photograph, and again would create that sense of uncomfortableness, or hey, what is he actually looking at? Here's some landscape shots, the Mormon barn out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And this first shot, the horizon line where the fields meet the mountains has been kept low, kind of to show the mountains in their majesty there and the sky above them. Now we can take the molten barn right next to it, and we've done the exact opposite here because we have a fence and some grass and whatnot in the foreground, and we want to emphasize the foreground in this photo. So we've raised the horizon line. Here's a subject running in the photograph. The subject is placed on the right third, and again is running into the larger portion of the photograph. So it looks like she's running into the photo, not out of the photo, which is very important. With still photography, still life photography, you can actually place your subject on the intersecting lines if you would like. And right here we have the water meter cover, and it is actually placed on the lower right intersecting line. And last but not least, we have our friend playing guitar here, and we've placed him on the left third with the guitar reaching to the right. Gives a nice sense of symmetry of him playing guitar right there. And obviously you would not want to move him to the right because you'd actually be cutting off the guitar. So that's rule of thirds. That one technique or guideline, if we'll call it, can help increase the quality of your photography better than any other technique independently. However, again, it is a guide and not a rule, even though it's called the rule of thirds. Let's move on to framing. What exactly is framing? You know, in photographs, you have a subject and you want to guide people's eyes to that subject. And if there are things in your photograph that help do that, it will enhance your photograph. This particular photo right here doesn't really have a subject unless you would consider the lake the subject, but the trees over top of it create framing that makes you look right into that area of the photograph. So let's take those trees and let's apply them to a photograph here of this lighthouse, and the trees take your attention directly to the lighthouse. Quite often our eyes are attracted to the lightest areas of the photograph, and without these trees we would have the white clouds in the upper end of the sky there, and you'd probably be looking at the clouds initially, and then your eyes would move down to the lighthouse. But because of these trees, your eyes move directly to the lighthouse. Here's a vertical photograph of a horse that I shot down in Cuba, and the trees over top of it and the fence below it just kind of take your eyes directly right into our subject. And it doesn't always have to be trees. Here's a perfect example of how architecture is used to create the frame. If you were to walk beyond the architecture and just take a picture of the building, it probably wouldn't have the impact that it has right now on this one. And last but not least, I love this photo. You can use shadows to actually create your framing. And the person is walking away from us out of the frame in the light with a strong shadow, but the dark shadows to the top left and the bottom left of the photograph guide your eye right into the direction of that person. So that is what we call framing. And last but not least, fill the frame. You know, as an amateur photographer or starting photography, photographers tend to not get close enough. A snapshot, you kind of look at your subject. You do not look necessarily at all four corners of your viewfinder, and not actually at the composition, but at the subject. So I always tell people, if you want to make your photos better, to get closer. And that doesn't always mean zooming in with your camera. It actually means stepping closer and looking at all four corners of your viewfinder to see what you're actually photographing. So if I went to take a picture of an automobile and that automobile happened to be a Ferrari, I would want to identify that it is a Ferrari, but I don't necessarily have to put the whole automobile in the picture. This particular picture has the logo of the Ferrari on the fender, as well as the logo and the words on the wheel and the brakes that are showing through. So I can shoot part of the automobile and get a nice photograph by filling the frame. Here's a perfect example of a beautiful red Mustang Shelby that was at a classic car show. And instead of shooting the whole automobile, I got in really close, but I made sure that we got the words Shelby there so that we can identify what the car is. Here's another photo from Cuba, an old Chevrolet, and I believe it's a 55 Chevy, and I angled the photograph and got in really close, didn't shoot the whole automobile, just shot part of the automobile, and I believe we've even got some framing with the trees above it to kind of guide your eyes right to the automobile. So that's a great way to be creative. And I have some friends that go four-wheeling out in Moab every year. And this is my friend's Jeep coming up over the rocks. And it's not the whole Jeep. I'm kind of getting in close, accentuating the tires and gripping as he climbs up over the rocks. So don't be afraid to get in closer. And although I've used automobiles on these examples, always like to add a photo of my beast Stella. Here's our dog Stella, our pet Stella. She loves to go swimming in our pool. And she's got her life vest on and she's standing in the pool. But I've actually got in close to accentuate her face, not taking a far away photograph. So our final technique being fill the frame is simply get closer. So let's talk about them real quick. Fill the frame, take a step closer. Framing itself, look for architectural designs or trees or shadows or things in your photograph that can guide people's eyes to your subject. And last, but obviously most important, is the rule of thirds. Use your vertical and horizontal thirds. Some cell phones actually even allow you to place the grid on the cell phone so you can actually put your subject right on those grid lines and create more exciting photographs. I hope that helps, and we'll catch you on our next episode. Thank you.